Let's cultivate our motivation. If we hold a grudge against even one sentient being, we're not going to be able to generate bodhicitta. And if we can't generate bodhicitta, then there's no possibility of entering the bodhisattva path and becoming a Buddha. So it's very important that we don't leave anybody out of our compassion, and that we don't hold rancor and grudges for people or towards people. So sometimes in our meditation, the people that we do hold rancor and grudges towards, the situation comes up in our mind, and we want to purify, we want to let go, but our mind gets very tangled up. This usually happens around people that we're very close to, or people that we have many expectations for, a very complicated relationship over a period of time with. Or it could not be, but generally it's those kind of people. And when we try and figure out, why am I so angry and how do I let go, then our mind argues back, but they did this and that wasn't fair, and how can I forgive them for this? And I do want to forgive them, but I'm so mad and I just can't let go of it. If they would only acknowledge what they did and apologize, then I could put it all to rest. So our mind gets very confused and very tangled up. And I don't know what I should do. And when that situation happened, what should I have done? And I can't figure out, how I could have had a good motivation in that situation, and what would beneficial action have been. And so our mind just becomes a mess with confusion, even though, we do want to let it go. So one thing that I've discovered is to just say to myself, okay, all that stuff happened in the past, and from now on, I'm just going to love these people. Yeah, they did their best. They have their limitations. They're not perfect. I contributed to the situation. They did. I don't want to have this messy mind of confusion about it. So I'm just going to decide now that I'm going to love them. And love here meaning I'm going to wish them well. And so you just kind of decide, okay, I don't, doesn't mean you have to go and apologize, or you have to wait for them to apologize, or you have to have a close relationship. But it's just, I'm going to love them and wish them well, and that's it. And then you put your mind in that frame towards those people. And if a negative thought comes, you just say, wait, I've decided I'm going to love them. I'm just going to wish them well. That's it. And so you come back to that feeling again and again. And it becomes, I found when I really make a decision, I'm just going to love them, then it becomes easy. Because I don't have to figure out what happened, or how I could repair it, or how I could what I could have done to prevent it. I'm just focusing now, and from now on, I'm loving them. I'm wishing them well. That's it. So try that. try that and see what happens. And it feels very good inside when we can really, have that conscious decision. I'm just going to wish them well. That's all. And then see what that does to your mood and to your mental state. And then see if you can expand that thought, that feeling of wishing people well, expand that to more and more people. And watch your heart really open as you do that. And from there, then generate the aspiration to attain Buddhahood so that you can actually bring happiness to others, especially by leading them on the path. Anything move in your mind? It's an interesting thing to just, they are the way they are, and I'm not going to change them. So let's just love them for what they are. Yeah. And then it feels much better for them and for us. Mm-hmm.
Where my mind gets caught sometimes, that it's sometimes not very beneficial, is I get caught up in this loop of, but I need to understand. I need to understand them. I need to understand why they did this. I want to understand why or where or how it happened, So my mind gets caught in these details.
Yeah.
And it sort of loses the big picture and it gets into the spinning,
right.
spinning.
Because we don't know why it happened. Yeah. There were elements from this life. There are elements, karmic elements for previous life. The other person probably couldn't, very often they can't even tell us what their motivation was and why they did what they did anyway. Sometimes they don't understand it. So sometimes this wish of, I want to know why they did it. Yeah. That's what gets us spinning and makes us quite miserable. And you just have to say, I don't understand why they did that. I mean, one of the people I do this with, I thought they were one way and then something happened. And they displayed these characteristics that are like totally the opposite from how they were. And I don't understand. And it's like, it doesn't matter whether I understand or not. My job right now is just to love them. Why this happened, who knows? They don't even know. I don't even know. If I want to know that bad, then I should use that as the motivation to become a Buddha, because then I'll be omniscient and I'll know why that person did that to me. It's like, forget why they did it. Who cares? Yeah. Okay. So I thought I'd start with some of the questions again tonight. This one didn't seem, where are you? Venerable Thubten, it didn't seem so much to be a question, or could you put it in the form of a question? Because I didn't see any question marks in it. It's this long. Can I?
Well,
yeah.
the thing about bliss being the thing that purifies is I'm stuck there.
Yeah, okay. So all four opponent powers are what are necessary to purify. Okay? And regret is the chief one when you start out. Okay? When you're establishing a relationship with the Buddha and you're opening up and telling the Buddha, look, I was a jerk and I did this and this and this, and I really regret it. And, unlike we do to ourselves and other people sometimes do to us, the Buddha doesn't go, yeah, you were really a jerk. How could you have done that? And I hope you really feel sorry and you burn in hell. No, that's not going on with the Buddha. The Buddha is so happy that we're purifying. And so, he shows that compassion towards us, radiates all that light. It comes into us. And, if the word bliss gives you trouble, it doesn't mean like, I'm having an orgasm, or it's kundalini, or it's, No, it doesn't mean that, okay? It just means, that you feel peaceful and satisfied and fulfilled inside. As I've done that purification, I'm putting it down. I'm learning from the experience. I'm putting it down. I'm giving up trying to figure out every last little detail of what they said and what I said and what they did and what I did. And I realized I made some mistakes. I see them, I acknowledge them, I purify. And then you relax and feel good about it. And imagining the light from the Buddha coming into you gives you that ability to just, feel at peace with yourself. Okay? So don't think bliss like, my whole body is, tingling and whatever it is, okay? Yeah? Okay. So while doing the meditation on the Buddha for this retreat, is it appropriate to substitute they or she for he when referencing the Buddha? No. No, the Buddha is in the form of a man. You visualize him as a man. Yeah? But actually, a holy being doesn't have a gender. Yeah, they're just manifesting in a particular form. When you're Buddha, you're not a man, you're not a woman. But when you manifest in a particular form, if Buddha showed up here, we would say he is here. Yeah. Yeah.
When visualizing my root guru coming from the heart of the Buddha and sitting on my head, if my root guru is a woman, how does that work in whether I'm visualizing a gender there?
Okay, because what you're doing is you're imagining not your actual root guru, but your root guru in the form of Tsongkhapa or in the form of the Buddha, and you're thinking that the mind of your root guru and the mind of the Buddha are the same. Okay? So it's not like you're visualizing the actual person and like, oh, but it's a she, but the Buddha's a he, and no, it's the form is the Buddha, but the nature, is inseparable. Okay, that makes some sense. Okay. Is samsara eternal and it's impermanent? No, it's not eternal. It doesn't last forever. It lasts until we decide to practice and free ourselves, but it's not eternal. Is it impermanent? Yes, it changes moment by moment by moment. It never remains the same. How do you, meaning me, define virtue and virtuous from a Buddhist perspective and worldview? I would say the way I generally use it, there's many different meanings of virtue. It's in volume 3. Yeah, if you look in volume 3, there's a whole list of different meanings of virtue. But the way I primarily use it, or the way it's primarily used, is that which brings a happy or pleasant result. Yeah? Okay. Is the experience of inhabiting a human body a necessary step on the path to full enlightenment or Buddhahood? Are there necessary things we can only learn, experience, and accomplish in a human body? When you think that we've been in samsara since beginningless time, we've been in lots of human bodies. Okay? So it isn't a thing of, must I take another human body in order to understand certain things? We've, they say a precious human body, which isn't just any human body. It's one with all the conditions so we can practice. That's a very beneficial kind of life to have, because it's compared to other types of rebirth, it's comparatively easy to practice. Yeah. Are there certain things we can only learn as a human? I don't think so. I mean, you have to learn the path, and human life is the best way to do it. But I don't think in that way of, are there only certain things that you have to learn as a human that you can't learn otherwise? I don't know. If somebody can explain the question to me in a different way, I think I understand it, but when you see beginningless time, and it's also not like there's a whole lesson plan laid out of things we have to learn. Yeah, you find in the New Age way of thinking, they talk about, there's certain things that you have to learn each life, as if there's God or somebody who created a lesson plan and you have to take those different rebirths and learn those things. It's not like that in Buddhism. So I don't know who did the question. Yeah.
As far as I understand, enlightenment is a path that happens in stages, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering, I guess, to ask a follow-up question with that might help, is like when being attains Buddhahood at that moment or whatever, when that happens, can that be in any type of rebirth or any realm? Or?
Okay. Usually, by the time you're at that level, you're a 10th level bodhisattva, ready to become a Buddha, you create your own akanista Pure Land in which you get enlightened. Okay? So, I don't know, maybe the body's sitting here, but you've created an akanista Pure Land, and that's for Paramitayana bodhisattvas, for bodhisattvas practicing the tantric path. And what they say is even the 10th level bodhisattva has to switch from Paramitayana to Tantrayana. That's what they say you can do in a human body. But I think you can also do it because when you're at that level, you can create so many different kind of bodies and manifestations. So, yeah. They just say this one's a good kind of body to do it in and to practice Tantra in. Do you know of a key to the figures in the refuge marriage field? There's one for the Guru Puja marriage field, but I haven't found one for the refuge. No, I don't know of any. But if you have the refuge merit field, take it out. I think other people would probably want to see it. And I would assume that the one for refuge is quite similar, You want to know exactly which order they're sitting in? I don't know if there's, if all the refuge tankas are exactly the same. I've never compared them. Yeah. So look online, look in the books. I don't know of anything in particular. Yeah. Okay. Shall we go on? Okay. So as I was preparing for today, I realized that at the end of this chapter, there's more about the whole thing of requesting inspiration and what that means, and the whole part I told you about last time about, can you receive a blessing from FDR? It's in there. Okay, but let's come back to where we are. That question that arose last time about, do you really create extra merit on merit multiplying days? And what happens if the Chinese calendar and the Tibetan calendar are different? And, those kinds of things. So those kind of subtle questions about karma, those are things that the Buddha needs to answer. It's not something that I can say. Yeah. But I think one of the comments that somebody online was saying was how they feel the specialness of the day when everybody comes together and everybody's thinking of the Buddha's qualities, and everybody together is feeling joyous about that and wanting to follow the path. And so you can see in a way it's our mind that makes something very powerful. Yeah. And there's something from the object too, but it's hard to always say what it is from the object, because when I asked my teacher, one of my teachers about this, I was saying, is there something astronomically in the cosmos that's happening that makes this day special, where you create more merit? It's a kind of question, like I said last time, that a Westerner asks and a Tibetan would never even ask or think about that. Yeah, it's just, okay, they say that, yeah, must happen. So, okay, so we're on the section, the actual section called the actual session and dedication at the conclusion. Okay, so where we left off, the Buddha's on top of our head, facing the way, the same way as we do. We've said the Buddha's mantra and purified, and then we do a glance meditation where we review all the different meditations on the path. Okay, and so there's many of those glance meditations in volume 1 in the Blue Prayer Book. Okay, so the majority of meditations on the stages of the path involve analytical meditation on the topic, followed by stabilizing meditation on the conclusion we have reached. So before meditating on a topic, have in mind an outline of the major points and then ponder them in order one by one. And so that's why the book Guided Buddhist Meditations was written, so that you have some outlines, to start with, where you can go and meditate according those. And they're all on tape, audio recorded, so you can meditate like that. And that gives you an idea. And then when you read things, you can make your own outlines. Or you can read something and fill in the outlines that are in the book, because the outline for Precious Human Life was, it doesn't have all 18 points in it. It just has some of the points. So as you become more familiar with those points and those points don't confuse you, then you can add it in, I didn't put in all the points at the beginning because I was just remembering when I first started, and that was one of the first meditations they taught. And the first point was, be glad you weren't born in the hell realm. And I was like, huh? So I didn't even really know about rebirth, let alone different realms. And so that point didn't make much sense to me. Okay. So I kind of I simplified that meditation. Now, of course, when I do it, I go back and I have all those points in there because now I understand them and they make more sense to me and I can meditate on them. Okay, until you become familiar with the topic, make an outline of its points by referring to this book, meaning this book or Guided Buddhist Meditations, and add pertinent points from other Lamrim books. If you read, listen to, or watch a teaching on the topic before the meditation session, jot down a brief outline of salient points to meditate on. So that's very helpful when you hear a teaching like this. If you don't take notes during it, when you go back, just, immediately write down some of the important points so at least you can remember what they are and see how to develop the points so that you can reach a certain conclusion. Okay? And so it's important to understand what conclusion you want to reach to and how that those points in that particular order help you reach that conclusion. Yeah, because in that way, then you can really do the meditation in a way that is going to affect your mind in a beneficial way. Okay. Otherwise, there's the 9-point death meditation. If you do it, and you can really see how things are developed, First, death is definite. Then, but the time of death is definite. Then, the time of death is indefinite. Yeah, death is definite. The time is indefinite. And what can I take with me when I die? Not my body, my friends, or my wealth. Okay? And so if you have those points, in that order, then you know that those are the 3 main things that you want to really conclude. And when you really understand those points, something in your mind shifts. Yeah. And you see that the purpose of the death meditation isn't that you panic and become terrified and freaked out because you're going to die, but rather you've meditated on precious human life, you value your life, you want to practice the path, and now you're saying, I don't have all the time in the world to do this. Okay? And then that meditation really becomes powerful to you. Okay? So, there's a way that these meditations are structured and that the order of the meditations are structured to really help your mind develop. So that's why it's very good at the beginning to become familiar with all the meditations, become familiar with the order. Like I said, in this series of, we've changed the order in a few points, but I think it doesn't matter. Yeah, but it just helps you, to have a big understanding of where you're going. Okay. Then also, if you go to a teaching, you know where on the path that teaching belongs. Because, if you're living someplace, then you can get teachings on a text from the beginning to the end and understand the development. But lots of times guest teachers come, they teach for 2, 3, 4, 5 days on a particular topic. And then afterwards you get confused. Oh, I just studied this topic, but the teacher who was here last week taught on the other one, and how do they all go together, and which one do I practice? And I was practicing what I learned last week, and then 1 week later I get a whole new topic. What do I do with that one? Do I just start on this one? And so you don't know what to do with your practice. So if you know, the order and how the meditations interrelate, then when you hear something, you know where to fit it in. And then as you cycle through the Lamrim, you know where to bring those teachings in. Okay. And it can be very confusing at first because there's so many topics and so much to learn. And especially, this, because I was thinking in old Tibet, you usually stayed someplace and you got a whole teaching from beginning to end, and people traveled around and things, but they usually would teach a text from beginning to end, and you would hear it beginning to end. And now, everybody's in such a hurry. The teacher comes, they're there for a few days, then they go on, and, and the students are not all at the same level because some have been there a long time and some have not been. And even the teacher's teaching there for 3 days. Some students come for 2 days, some students 1 day, some come the first day, some come the last day, So it's really difficult, how do you really teach this with, how do people really learn when nobody's staying put? Yeah. And so that's the benefit of living somewhere and going to the Dharma Center, living somewhere, having the teachings from beginning to end. Okay. But given, that you may not have that situation, then at least if you know the whole overall structure, when somebody comes and teaches a topic, you know basically where it goes and how to integrate it into your practice. Okay? And you also know which practices are more advanced than you can really handle right now, so that you maybe study them and review your notes, but you don't drop everything you've been practicing to practice that, because you know where it belongs in the Lamrim, and you realize, hey, I have to do some preliminary work to work my mind up to the stage where, really engaging with that kind of meditation in depth is going to be worthwhile. Okay? Yeah. And I say this because, you will, anyway, some of you may have experienced that. Using reasoning and logic to understand the meaning of each point, or use reasoning and logic to understand the meaning of each point and make examples from your life that pertain to the points. So that's really important. You have to make examples from your life. So it's not, precious human life, there's, the 8 freedoms and the 10 fortunes. So what's next? It's like, do I have these? Do I have these 8 freedoms? Do I have these 10 fortunes? What does each freedom, how does that benefit me? What does each fortune do? How does that benefit me? Do I really appreciate the benefit that I get from each of those? Okay. When you study karma, like the general points of karma, the specific points of karma, make examples from your own life. different actions I've done, where do they fit in this whole schema? Okay. And so in that way, then the teachings really become quite alive for you. When you meditate on the Four Truths, and you're going through, the eight kinds of dukkha of the human realm, and the 3 kinds of dukkha, and the 6 kinds of dukkha. It's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not like, okay, Buddhism is a great religion if you like lists. It's not that. It's like, okay, yeah, well, one of the ones in the 6 kinds of dukkha is that nothing's stable. Yeah. And you go, is my life stable? I want it to be stable. Is it stable? Is there some way to really make it stable? And then you go through all the ways that your grasping mind is trying to make everything predictable and stable. And then finally you just say, forget it. I can't pin everything down. I can't control everything. So given that things are changing and they're unstable, how can I deal with that? What meaning does that have for my life? Well, it means that I want to get out of samsara quick because I don't like this situation. And it also means that while I'm in samsara, I have to learn to adapt to things on the turn of a dime. That, things can change really quickly, and I just have to learn to adapt. Yeah, because you begin to see, as much as I try and control everything and make it predictable, that much I make myself miserable because I can't do it. Why? Because it's impossible to do in samsara. That's why. It's not like I'm a failure because I can't control everything. It's this, It's like wanting to squeeze oil out of sand. No, it's impossible. So, okay, if that's impossible, then how do I deal with the situation? So that it doesn't keep throwing me off. And how do I use that that knowledge that it's, unstable to really aspire me to practice the path and get out of this mess. Okay, so make examples from your life that pertain to the points. In this way, conviction in their veracity will arise. In addition, you will gain familiarity with the topics so that you will be able to remember and apply them during your daily life. Yeah. And so that's, really the beauty when you become very familiar with the different meditations. And then something happens in your life and you go, this is an example of that meditation. Yeah. Your best friend calls you up and says, I can't stand you anymore. And it's like, I was just meditating that everything is unstable in samsara. Here's a really good example. Yeah, exactly what the Buddha talked about. Okay. And then, that helps you accept that situation when you're there. Yeah. When you reach a conclusion through your reflection or a strong understanding of the topic arises in your mind, cease the analytical meditation and with stabilizing meditation, focus your mind one-pointedly on the meaning you discovered or the experience you gained. Okay, so when you've done the outline, and something shifted in your mind, you have some experience, you've really oh, wow, yeah, this is true, then stop and just let the mind sit there on that conclusion, on that experience. Yeah. It will fade after a while. When it fades, you can either go on to the next thing or you can review the points that got you to that conclusion. But at least let it sink in, so that it really influences you. Employing both analytical and stabilizing meditation to the topics in this way is important for gaining and sustaining an understanding of the path. Okay, so for gaining the understanding, you do the analytic meditation. For sustaining it and really integrating it, you do the stabilizing meditation. For example, to meditate on precious human life, first make an outline of the 8 freedoms and 10 fortunes and add other pertinent points, because within the meditation on the precious human life, you have the 8 freedoms, you have the 10 fortunes, then you have the causes to attain the precious human life. There's 3 points under that. Then you have the rarity of attaining the precious human life. There's, some more points under that. So you have an outline. You may not get through the whole outline in one meditation. Maybe you just do the 8 and the 10 in one meditation, or maybe just the 8 in one session, the 10 in another. I mean, you see how you're going and how much, and it's not like an exact recipe. You can decide yourself how much time you spend on each point, and each time you do the meditation, it's going to be a bit different this way. And make different examples each time too. Okay, so you have your outline, yeah? Then do the 6 preparatory practices. So those you can do very, very slowly and do your Lam Rim, in 10 or 20 minutes. Or you can do the preparatory practices quicker and then have more time for the Lam Rim. Again, it's up to you, and you can do it differently each time you do it. Okay. So then after the 6 preparatory practices, contemplate the points one by one, thinking about them logically and relating them to your life. Okay, so really try and understand each point. Don't just say, precious human life. I'm free from being born in a barbaric land. And there you think, barbaric, like, I don't know what your image of barbaric is, something you saw in the movies. What? White House. Yeah. So, then you go, oh, no, the Buddhist definition of barbaric is the White House. It is a place where the Dharma is not rooted. Yeah. And where, where the Dharma isn't rooted and people aren't geared towards liberation. And some of you even have a hard time with ethical conduct, let alone liberation, And so, and then think, okay, well, what is a barbaric place? And then, am I free from it? And if I live in somewhere that's kind of a barbaric place, but kind of not, then how can I make my life less influenced by the barbaric part and more influenced by the sane part? Yeah. And how can I bring forgiveness and love and compassion to the barbaric part? Okay. And, you really try and think of this in terms of your own life. Yeah. Oh, can you just imagine if people heard that we call this a barbaric country, they'd freak out. Yeah. But we have technology and we have science. Well, that's wonderful, but, being barbaric or not depends on your mental state, not on your level of scientific and technological development. Yeah? Think about it. Is an atom bomb Using the atom bomb, isn't that kind of barbaric? Yeah. So it's not like barbarians have spears and, and are scantily dressed like that. No, they'd be wearing suits and, have huge computers in front of them. Okay. So continuing to talk about precious human life. When you feel a sense of appreciation for your life and an eagerness to use it for Dharma practice, you have reached the proper conclusion. Okay, so you know what you're supposed to feel. And when you feel that, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah. So, it's not like every time you do the meditation too, it's like, oh, yes, I got it. I really have a precious human life. This is wonderful. It's like sometimes you do the meditation and you get some experience, and sometimes you do it and not so much. But all the times you do it and you don't get so much experience are the causes for the time you do it and you have a strong experience. Okay. So it's not like getting something out of what are the machine called? You put in your quarter and you get your potato chips. What? Vending. Yeah, vending machines. So it's not like, every time I put in my quarter, although now it's probably much more for $1 for chips. Oh, and all they do is harm your health? Anyway, okay, it's not like, you put in all your quarters and every time you're going to get your thing of chips, because that's the way the vending machine works. So, okay, I did the meditation, every time I should get some experience from it. No, it's more like, you do it and then you build up to it. Yeah. And so you just do the meditation. And like I said, all the times when nothing special happens, they're creating the cause for the time when you really have a deep experience. So don't worry about it. Okay? Because remember, so much of what we're doing is about planting seeds. It's about familiarizing ourselves. And familiarity comes slowly, doesn't it? It's like learning to type. Do you remember typing high school? I learned to type in high school, Do you remember that? I never learned to type numbers. It's too much of a stretch for my fingers. But, it's like you don't learn to type the first day, do you? Yeah, and it takes a lot of practice. And some days, when you have the test to see how fast you type, you do really well, and some days you blow it. And that's all part of the process, yeah? So it's not like, you're here and then it's a steady increase. It's like, this kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so at that point, stop thinking about the points and let your mind dwell on the fact that you have a precious human life and the feelings of being extremely fortunate. So they say that you should feel like a beggar who just found a jewel in a pile of mud. Okay, if that example doesn't resonate, it's like being a kid and going into Toys R Us with somebody else's credit card. Okay? It's like, wow, I am so fortunate. Yeah. When you are interested in the Lamrim topics, your reflection and analysis will keep your attention on the subject. That helps bring your mind to a focused state. If you find stabilizing meditation difficult because your mind is easily distracted, put more emphasis on checking meditation. Okay? And for some people, people always come in, it's like, I want to develop my concentration. Yeah, it's like, I want to do these analytic meditations. I want to develop samadhi. Yeah, but then, you're trying to develop samadhi, and what are you thinking about? Okay, well, I'm thinking about what size are the Buddha statues for the altar? How big are we going to have a stage in front of it or not? How many steps up to the stage? How tall is the statue? How recessed in are the bookshelves? And that's a good meditation. At least it's, something constructive. Otherwise, it's like, oh, this happened 15 years ago, and then that person did this, and, no. Or Donnie, what's he doing? He feels he's whining again. God, I can't stand these people that whine. Oh, I whine too. But my whining isn't so bad, I just own it. I say I'm complaining. He doesn't own his whining. He complains all the time, and it's like, dang. Okay, so that's when I don't have such a good meditation. So, kind of designing the altar is much better. So, you get distracted. You want to attain samadhi, and, look what's going through your mind. Okay, so you have to deal with all those distractions. Yeah, the best way to deal with those distractions is learn the thought training and the lamrim. Yeah, if you learn those two texts and the meditations in them, then when these distractions come up, you'll have the methods to counteract them. Okay? And the nice thing about doing the lamrim thought training meditations or mind training meditations is you're following a sequence of thoughts and steps. So you're analyzing something. Yeah, and you're coming to a conclusion. So you are developing some concentration if you can go from the beginning, the first point, to the end point without going to, what material are the deer and the Dharma wheels going to be made of? Are they going to be made in Nepal? And that costs $5,000. Maybe it's cheaper. Maybe we should really try and do it with what do you call plexiglass? No, fiberglass after all. But no, that's no good. Concrete? No, that doesn't work. So at least if you're, if you do analytical meditation, at least you can stay on something. The points of the meditation will anchor you, and you can go from one point to the next and at least concentrate on that. Yeah?
With that analytical meditation, it seems that if you're lucky, like you were saying, working it out.
Mm-hmm.
Is it working? Then you're going to get that moment of samadhi in the sense that you arrive at a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's going to envelop your mind. So you're going to get a taste of that one-pointedness at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, you just stay there on that experience at that point. Yeah. Okay. Near the end of the session, it is helpful to relate the topic that you meditated on to the method and wisdom aspects of the path. In other words, bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness, respectively. Okay, so method side of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom side, the correct view of emptiness. For example, if your meditation topic is the 10 non-virtues, first reflect on them in terms of your own life. Then reflect that, like you, other sentient beings have engaged in these non-virtues and will have to experience their results. Okay, so don't sit and enumerate everybody else's non-virtuous actions. Oh, yeah, that person I can't stand. Yeah, he kills and he steals and he sleeps around and he lies. He's done all 12 of the 10 non-virtues. Yeah. he needs to purify. No, you're not meditating on it that way. Okay. But you look and say, oh, wow, like, Donnie and Pat Cipollone and, they're all under the sway of afflictions and karma. And this is what is, what it's bringing about in their lives and how, the karma they create, how they influence everybody else. So it's not just about me, and I've done all 10 non-virtues, but other beings too. And just like I'm going to have to experience the results if I don't purify, they're going to have to experience the results if they don't purify. And just as I don't want to suffer as a result of my negative actions, neither do they. And so can I have some compassion for them, wishing them to be free of suffering and wishing them to be free of the afflictions that make them create these non-virtues. Okay? So you take that topic and then, you use it to think a little bit about love and compassion and bodhicitta, the method side of the path. Okay? And then generate the wish to become a Buddha in order to lead them on the path to liberation so that they will be free of experiencing painful results and the afflictions that cause them. Okay? So first you meditate on yourself, then, that person that I've been hating for the last 25 years, they're in this situation too. How stupid is it that I hate them? When they're in the same situation as me. Then reflect that all these karmas and their results are empty of true existence. They arise and they function dependently, like a dream, and do not exist in the way they appear. When you've meditated, okay, so that's the wisdom aspect. Think of that. When you have meditated on a particular topic sufficiently, imagine the Buddha who's been on your head dissolving into light, and dissolves into you and merges with your mind at your heart chakra at the center of your chest. So we usually, when we have strong emotions, we usually say here. So that's why we think of the Buddha dissolving into light and coming to rest here. So don't okay, my mind's there. Now my mind has to merge with the Buddha's mind. And the Buddha's mind is the ball of light that is 3 inches by 2 inches. And what color? My mind has to be a ball of light. But what color is that? And how do I get the 2 kinds of light? One light blue and one light yellow, and they become green when they merge. Don't drive yourself crazy, okay? And don't drive me crazy by asking those questions. Okay, you can tell the kind of questions people have asked me before. Our mind sometimes gets so, caught up in something very small like this. No, you're just feeling, like your mind and the Buddha's mind have become undifferentiatable. And, and you just think for a minute, oh, what would it be like for me to feel like the Buddha does and to apprehend things like the Buddha does? And you imagine that for a minute, And if you're feeling lonely when the Buddha dissolves into you, you think, here's the Buddha full of love and compassion who's my best friend. And, he's dissolving into me and merging with my mind. And who feels lonely then? Okay. As mentioned previously, do not expect instant results or fantastic peak experiences. Instead, be satisfied with gradual growth in your compassion and wisdom and seek stable, steady change. By meditating consistently, your understanding will develop over the months and years. So the chief word in that sentence was consistently. Because sometimes will, do one day of strong meditation and then we won't meditate for the next week. Yeah. So then, you get something and then you lose it. So better to do something consistently each day, and that way you can really build something steady in your mind. Yeah. At the conclusion of a session, dedicate the merit created from your meditation to attain awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. The primary purpose of dedicating the merit is to make the results of our virtue inexhaustible, lasting until all sentient beings attain full awakening. Okay? So you're dedicating it for the highest possible a most long-lasting goal, okay? Okay, while the merit can still bring good results before awakening, it will not be exhausted until awakening is attained. Okay, so if we dedicate, we do a practice, we dedicate, for, like we dedicate, due to this merit, may I attain the state of Guru Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings to awakening. When you dedicate like that, then that merit will not run dry until that goal is accomplished. If you dedicate, by this merit, may I attain a good rebirth, then when you dedicate that, when you attain that good rebirth, then that merit has been consumed, it's ripened. If you dedicate it for awakening, then as a byproduct, because in order to attain awakening, you need certain conditions in samsara so that you can practice. So as a byproduct of dedicating for awakening, then you have a good rebirth. Okay? So you can just dedicate for awakening, or you can say, I dedicate for awakening, and may I have a whole series of good rebirths so that I can practice consistently and attain awakening. Okay? Now, sometimes there's some confusion about this, because it says that the merit will become inexhaustible until you reach awakening. So, but then when you come to chapter 6 of Chandakirti's, supplement to Nagarjuna's middle way, and not chapter 6 in that text, chapter 4, the chapter about patience or fortitude, there it talks about what happens, how anger and wrong views can destroy our merit. And then you get confused saying, but the teacher just said that it's inexhaustible till I attain awakening, and now they're saying it can be destroyed. So what is it? Okay. If you don't destroy your merit, it will be inexhaustible until you attain awakening. But if you get angry and destroy your merit, then it's not going to be inexhaustible, okay? Because you've impinged on it. Okay. So while the merit can still bring good results before awakening, it will not be exhausted until awakening is attained. By connecting even small virtue to the wider vision of the awakening of all sentient beings, you bring an extraordinary dimension to this small action. Okay? It immerses your mind in bodhicitta, increases your generosity, and expands your rejoicing at virtue. Because dedicating your merit is also a practice of generosity and a practice of rejoicing. Okay. In addition, so you're not just bringing bodhicitta into your dedication of merit, you also want to bring the wisdom aspect into your dedication. So in addition, seal the dedication by reflecting that you as the agent, the merit you are dedicating, the awakening you are dedicating to attain, and the sentient beings you wish to benefit are all empty of existing from their own side, but they exist dependent on one another. So you reflect, just a short time on dependent arising and how because these things are dependent on each other, therefore they are empty. Okay. As Nagarjuna says in praise to the supermundane, there exists no agent, no subject to, no merit exists. They arise through dependence. Though dependently arisen, they are unborn. So you have proclaimed, O Master of Words. Master of Words is talking about the Buddha. When it says that things are unborn in verses like this, it means that things do not arise from an inherently existent cause. The process is not inherently existent, and the result from that cause is not inherently existent either. Okay? Because what's interesting here is, the agent, the merit, the goal I'm dedicating, the sentient beings who are going to dedicate. The way we think about them is, okay, I'm sitting here. There's me, and I am creating merit. So there's me here. There's merit that's somewhere there. Okay. There's the sentient beings that I'm dedicating for. They're a little bit further out. Okay. There's the enlightenment that I'm dedicating to attain. That's up. Okay. And they're all sitting out there waiting for me to connect them. Okay. So I'm the agent creating the merit, before the merit has even been created. I'm just the agent. And the merit's sitting out there waiting to be created. Sentient beings are, they're always waiting for enlightenment. Yeah. And that's the way things look to us, don't they? Everything is something distinct. Yeah. But actually, you can't have the one creating the merit unless you have the merit that's being created and the activity that's creating the merit. And if you're dedicating for enlightenment, there has to be the enlightenment you're dedicating for. There has to be the sentient beings who are going to, benefit. And all these things they become all the pieces of the puzzle at the same time that they're put together. Okay, so we think of all the different things. It's kind of like a puzzle. Okay, so there's me, that's one piece, cut in one shape, and there's the merit, and there's the enlightenment, and here's the sentient beings, and there's the enlightenment, there's the activity. Okay, and they're all out there, and then when I create the merit, all I do is I find which things, like in a puzzle, which things kind of hook into each other. Now I got it, okay? But it's not like that. It's not like all these things are independently out there, This doesn't become an action creating merit unless there's somebody doing the action. And unless there's a virtuous motivation, and there's no merit unless there's, someone doing the action and that, you need all these things to have any of them. Okay. So it's like baseball, We think, there's Joe DiMaggio. He's a baseball player, right? Yeah, he was. Way back. Oh, let's take Babe Ruth. Yeah, that name's easier to say. Joe DiMaggio's a little harder. Okay, so there's Babe Ruth, okay? He's just sitting out there, and there's some pitcher, and there's a ball, and there's a bat, and they're all out there, and then there's the trajectory of that home run, okay, and they're all there. It's an independent bat, an independent ball, an independent pitcher and a catcher and a batter, and they're all like frozen. They have their own essence. That's the way they appear to us. But the batter, is Babe Ruth. Is he a batter when he's at home watching TV? He's not batting anything. Yeah, when he's at home watching TV, he's a couch potato. He's not a batter. Yeah? And when the ball is, when a 3-year-old is playing with the ball and rolling it and the dog's chasing it, it's not really a baseball. It becomes a dog's toy and a child's toy. Yeah? And the pitcher, when he's at home doing the dishes, he's a dishwasher. He's not a pitcher. So it isn't like all these things are kind of out there and one thing is only that, independent of the activity, Yeah. I mean, he was only a baseball player because the game of baseball exists. Without the game of baseball, he wouldn't be a baseball player. Yeah, and the Hall of Fame exists, simply because somebody invented it, had that idea, and then thought, oh, we should put baseball players and football players and, in it. Yeah. They didn't think of, bad athletes like me, and maybe we should have a Hall of Fame for people who try, but they swing the bat and the ball goes right by them. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it makes us really think a little bit how it's the situation, all the factors in the situation that make any particular factor in the situation what it is. Okay, they're not out there independently. So while none of the elements of a dedication, the person, the merit, and so forth, exist inherently, they exist nominally by being merely designated by name and concept. And our mind goes, no, he's a real inherent baseball player. He's not just designated by name and concept. You don't put a name and concept in that Hall of Fame. You put Babe Ruth in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, but who in the world is Babe Ruth? Which Babe Ruth are you putting in? The one that hit the first home run? The one that's hit the second home run? The third run? Which, you make the statue of Babe Ruth. Which statue? How old is he? Do you put the little baby Babe Ruth? Yeah, do you put the Babe Ruth who's on his deathbed? Who was the Babe Ruth that got into the Hall of Fame? Okay, so then you see, oh yeah, maybe, my mind has something to do with it. What?
I was thinking of
The candy bar? Yeah, isn't it Babe Ruth?
It's a candy bar.
Oh, Beirut.
She was very confused.
Oh. Okay. Okay. The emptiness of their emptiness of inherent existence and their conventional existence are not contradictory. Reflecting in this way increases our understanding of the compatibility of emptiness and dependent arising and prevents us from becoming arrogant. because we realize we're not, look at me, I'm the great merit creator, inherently creating merit. No, we realize, no, that's not how it is. Okay. Okay. So any questions so far? Yeah.
So Cheryl online is asking, can merit get destroyed even after it's already been dedicated for awakening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've dedicated it all for awakening, but if we get angry afterwards or generate wrong views, we destroy it. Yeah? So, yeah, it's not like the question was if you've generated it all for awakening, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you've dedicated it for awakening, can it still be destroyed?
Yes.
And another question is, I wonder, if I have committed heavy destructive actions, should I continuously, without end, include purification practice in my daily practices, ongoing, or can one let it go at some point?
I think we should do some purification every single day, because whether we've created heavy negativities or not, every day we create some negativities. Okay, so it's good to do it every day. And for things, that feel very heavy, you do it until, it really, you really make peace with it. Yeah. And let it go. And when I say let it go, I don't mean you say, oh, well, that was just a small thing. Doesn't matter. I killed somebody, but okay, I'm letting it go. So what? No, it's like I always regret having done that. Yeah. And I'm never going to rejoice in it, but I don't necessarily have to think about that specific action every single day. I can think all the negativities I've created. Yeah. But some days, that feeling is there of something we did in the past that we really feel strong regret for. So then you really think of that specific thing, and for as long as you need to. Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I was working on that, and I realized that the shame grabs me. And I work on releasing that shame.
Right.
And not to give it power.
Right.
Yes, I have done something that I'm not proud of it, but now I'm not doing it, and I pray that I won't do it again, and drop that shame. Stop grabbing me and putting me in place.
And that's what imagining the light from the Buddha reinforces. Yeah, because you can't feel shame when the light of the Buddha is flowing into you. Yeah, because the Buddha has no use for shame. Yeah, and shame is just a defilement.
For me, it's the self-grasping.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to keep you here.
Yeah, yeah. And you say, light from the Buddha purifies, all that shame comes out. As it comes out, it's coming out in the form of, centipedes and scorpions and gunk, and disappears.
What you started your teaching tonight about, I don't like that person. I had a thought today, yesterday, about that. I don't like that person. And I go to a place like I have a lot of negative thoughts, and sometimes like it pulls me down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to, I says, no, now you're going to do something good for that person.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of you when you went to say hi to everybody, you talked to everybody, some people that you thought you would never talk about.
Uh-huh.
So I says, no, you're going to do something kind toward that person.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of removed that power over me, that thought, because I feel bad because I have bad thoughts. And this is what I need. I found that is important for me to release. That I'm not giving power to that right now.
Yep.
It's just thought passing by. Don't grab it and counteract it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Okay, so we'll stop here.